The moment Jake Matthews pulled up in his police cruiser, Marcus knew this wasn't going to be an ordinary Tuesday evening. The late summer sun cast long shadows across the quiet suburban street, turning the pristine rows of identical houses into a canvas of tension and unspoken secrets. Marcus Davis stood on his front porch, arms crossed, watching as Jake's imposing figure emerged from the driver's seat. The police officer's uniform pressed crisp against his muscular frame, a stark contrast to Marcus's casual t-shirt and worn jeans. They had never spoken before, but Marcus had seen Jake around the neighborhood, always rigid, always watching with a presence that seemed to demand respect through intimidation. "Evening," Jake called out, his voice a low rumble that carried the weight of official authority. "We need to talk about your Wi-Fi." Marcus raised an eyebrow. Of all the confrontations he'd anticipated, this wasn't one of them. The neighborhood grapevine was notorious, but he hadn't expected it to escalate to a police officer showing up at his doorstep over internet access. "Your wife sent you?" Marcus asked, a hint of amusement cutting through the tension. Jake's jaw clenched. "Karen believes you're stealing her internet signal. Says your connection is interfering with hers." It was laughable. Marcus was a network security consultant. If anyone understood the intricacies of wireless networks, it was him. He had meticulously configured his home network, ensuring it was both secure and optimized. The idea that he was accidentally or intentionally disrupting the Matthews internet was absurd. "Mind if I come in?" Jake's question wasn't really a question. It was a command delivered with the same tone he likely used during interrogations. Marcus hesitated. Something about this encounter felt off. Jake's eyes were scanning the interior of his home, moving with a precision that suggested he was looking for more than just Wi-Fi interference. Years of working in cybersecurity had taught Marcus to trust his instincts, and right now, those instincts were screaming that something was very wrong. "Actually," Marcus said slowly, "why don't we discuss this outside?" Jake's hand instinctively moved closer to his holster, a subtle gesture, but one Marcus didn't miss. The neighborhood around them seemed to grow quiet, as if holding its breath in anticipation of what might come next. What Jake didn't know was that Marcus had already discovered something, a digital thread that, if pulled, would unravel far more than a simple Wi-Fi dispute. The network logs he'd been analyzing weren't just showing internet traffic. They were revealing a pattern, a series of connections that suggested something far more sinister was happening right under everyone's noses. And Jake Matthews had just walked right into the middle of it. The summer evening settled around them, thick with humidity and unspoken implications. Marcus knew that the next few moments would change everything, for Jake, for Karen, and for himself. The next morning, Marcus began piecing together the digital puzzle that had caught his attention. His home office was a sanctuary of cutting-edge technology, multiple monitors displaying complex network maps, firewall logs, and intricate data visualizations. What had started as a routine network analysis had transformed into something far more complicated. He'd first noticed the anomaly 3 weeks ago, unusual data packets traveling through the neighborhood's wireless networks. At first, they seemed random, insignificant, but as Marcus dug deeper, patterns emerged. Encrypted transmissions that didn't quite match typical residential internet traffic. Sporadic data bursts that seemed to originate from multiple houses, including the Matthews residence. His fingers flew across the keyboard, tracing digital breadcrumbs. Each connection revealed another layer of complexity. Someone was using these residential networks for something they definitely shouldn't be. A notification pinged. Karen Matthews had just posted another heated neighborhood group message. "Someone is stealing our internet." The post read, accompanied by an angry emoji. Marcus chuckled darkly. If she only knew what was really happening beneath the surface of these seemingly ordinary suburban networks. The previous night's encounter with Jake continued to nag at him. A routine Wi-Fi complaint didn't explain the officer's tense body language, the way his hand had instinctively moved toward his holster. Something was very wrong. Marcus pulled up the street's network map. Each house was represented by a node, interconnected lines showing wireless signal strengths and data flows. The Matthews house stood out, not just for its network activity, but for the strange patterns of data transmission. His phone buzzed, an unknown number. "Stop digging." The text read. No name, no context. Just a threat, pure and simple. Marcus leaned back in his chair, a mix of curiosity and concern washing over him. Whoever was behind this network intrusion clearly didn't want him investigating, which only made him more determined to uncover the truth. He thought back to Jake's visit. The cop hadn't come just because of a Wi-Fi dispute. There was something else, something Jake was trying to protect or perhaps hide. The network logs told a story, and Marcus was going to read every single line. Outside his window, the suburban street looked peaceful. Perfectly manicured lawns, expensive cars and driveways, neighbors going about their daily routines. But beneath that pristine surface, a dangerous game was being played, and Marcus was now squarely in the middle of it. He took a deep breath and returned to his monitors. The next piece of the puzzle was waiting to be discovered. 2 days after Jake's unexpected visit, Marcus decided it was time for a more direct approach. His years in network security had taught him that the most complex digital mysteries often had surprisingly simple entry points. If Jake and Karen were connected to whatever was happening with these suspicious network transmissions, he needed more information. He pulled into the local coffee shop, strategically choosing a table near the window with a clear view of the street. Detective work wasn't his usual domain, but he'd learned enough from cybersecurity investigations to know how to gather intelligence. Karen Matthews entered exactly 37 minutes after Marcus sat down. She was a tornado of activity. Bleached blonde hair perfectly coiffed, designer sunglasses perched atop her head, expensive leather handbags swinging with each determined step. Marcus watched as she ordered her drink, a complicated-sounding concoction that seemed more chemistry experiment than coffee. "I know you're watching me," Karen said suddenly, not turning around. Her voice cut through the ambient coffee shop noise like a knife. Marcus didn't flinch. "Would you like to join me?" She pivoted, those designer sunglasses now firmly in place. Up close, Marcus could see the thin lines of tension around her eyes, the carefully applied makeup that couldn't quite hide the stress beneath the surface. "This is about the Wi-Fi," Karen stated, sliding into the seat across from him. It wasn't a question. "This is about much more than Wi-Fi," Marcus responded coolly. For a moment, something flickered in Karen's eyes, fear, perhaps, or recognition. She opened her mouth to speak, then closed it. The confident suburban wife routine was slipping, revealing something more complex underneath. "Jake doesn't know I'm here," she said finally, her voice dropping to a whisper. "And you can't tell him." Marcus leaned forward. The game was changing, and he was about to learn why a routine network investigation had turned into something far more dangerous. A notification buzzed on his phone. Another anonymous message. "Walk away now. Some secrets are better left buried." But Marcus knew he was too deep now. Whatever was happening in this quiet suburban neighborhood, he was going to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Outside the coffee shop window, a police cruiser slowly rolled past. Jake Matthews was on patrol, completely unaware that his wife was about to reveal something that could change everything. The truth came in fragments, like a shattered mirror slowly being reassembled. Karen's hands trembled as she pulled a USB drive from her bag. "Jake can never know," she repeated, sliding the small device across the table. "What's on here could destroy everything." Marcus understood data. He lived and breathed complex networks, encrypted transmissions, hidden connections. But what Karen was offering was more than just digital information. This was personal, dangerous. "Start from the beginning," he urged. Her story unfolded like a carefully constructed house of cards. Jake wasn't just a local police officer. For the past 18 months, he'd been involved in something far darker, a localized trafficking operation that used the neighborhood's sophisticated Wi-Fi network as a communication backbone. The signals, Marcus realized, the unusual data packets he'd been tracking, weren't random. They were carefully orchestrated communication channels. Karen's voice was barely a whisper. "Jake thinks I don't know, but I've been collecting evidence, watching, waiting. I needed someone who could understand the technical side, someone who could prove what's happening." The USB drive contained months of meticulously gathered digital breadcrumbs. Network logs, encrypted messages, GPS tracking data. Each piece told a fragment of a horrifying story of corruption that ran deeper than Marcus could have imagined. "Why me?" Marcus asked. A bitter laugh escaped Karen's lips. "Because you're the only one in this neighborhood with the skills to actually prove what's happening. And because you're an outsider, someone Jake and his partners won't immediately suspect." Outside, the suburban street remained picture-perfect. Manicured lawns, expensive cars, the illusion of safety and normalcy. But beneath that surface, a dangerous game was being played, with lives hanging in the balance. Marcus understood now why the anonymous messages had warned him to stop digging. This was bigger than a simple Wi-Fi dispute. This was about a network of corruption that touched multiple levels of local law enforcement. His phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message. "You've been warned. Some truths are better left in the dark." But Marcus knew there was no turning back. The digital trail was clear, and he was the only one who could follow it to its source. "I'll help you," he said to Karen, making a decision that would change everything. "But we have to be careful, very careful." The USB drive sat between them, a small piece of plastic that could potentially bring down an entire criminal operation, and Jake Matthews had no idea what was coming. The next 48 hours became a high-stakes game of digital cat and mouse. Marcus worked tirelessly, converting Karen's raw data into a comprehensive digital trail that could withstand legal scrutiny. His home office transformed into a war room. Multiple screens displaying network maps, encrypted communications, and carefully cross-referenced evidence. Karen had been more than just a passive observer. She'd been collecting evidence for months, risking everything to expose her husband's criminal network. Each piece of data was a calculated risk, each hidden file a potential weapon against a corrupt system that ran deeper than anyone suspected. "We can't go to the local police," Marcus muttered, reviewing the latest decrypted transmission. "They're compromised, completely compromised." A contact from his cybersecurity days had agreed to help, a former FBI tech specialist named Elena Rodriguez. She was their only hope of bringing the evidence to light without alerting Jake or his criminal associates. The plan was delicate. They would need to create an airtight digital case that couldn't be dismissed or covered up. One wrong move and everything would fall apart. On the third night of their investigation, everything changed. The first sign of trouble came at 2:17 a.m. Marcus's sophisticated home security system suddenly went dark, not a malfunction, but a deliberate shutdown. Someone was coming. Karen's voice came through his encrypted communication channel. "They know," she whispered. "Jake knows." Marcus had prepared for this moment. His backup systems kicked in, routing critical evidence through multiple secure channels. Years of network security work had taught him one crucial lesson: always have a backup plan. The sound of a car pulling up outside cut through the night's silence. Heavy footsteps approached the front door. Not the careful steps of someone trying to be quiet, but the deliberate march of someone who believed they had total control. A loud knock, more like a demand than a request. "Open up, Marcus," Jake's voice rang out. "We need to talk." But Marcus was ready. The digital evidence was secured, distributed across multiple secure servers. Whatever Jake thought he was going to do, Marcus had already ensured the truth would survive. The neighborhood slept, unaware that a critical moment was unfolding. A moment that would either expose a massive criminal operation or bury the truth forever. Jake Matthews had no idea what was about to hit him. When he burst through the door, expecting to intimidate Marcus into silence, he found instead a meticulously prepared trap. Marcus stood calmly in his home office, every digital piece of evidence already secured and transmitted to multiple external sources, including Elena Rodriguez at the FBI and several investigative journalists. "You've got nothing on me," Jake snarled, his police officer's bravado barely concealing the fear in his eyes. Marcus simply smiled. "Everything's already out of my hands, Jake. Every encrypted file, every network log, every piece of evidence documenting the trafficking operation you've been running, it's gone public." The color drained from Jake's face. He reached for his service weapon, but Marcus was prepared. A single press of a button activated a series of security protocols. The room filled with the high-frequency sound that momentarily disoriented Jake, giving Marcus the precious seconds he needed. Sirens approached, but these weren't the local police Jake was expecting. Within hours, the entire network came crashing down. Federal investigators swarmed the neighborhood, executing warrants that expose a sophisticated criminal operation involving multiple local law enforcement officers, city officials, and underground trafficking networks. Karen's role as the primary whistleblower, supported by Marcus's technical expertise, became the linchpin of the investigation. She had risked everything to expose the truth, knowing the danger she faced. In the aftermath, the quiet suburban neighborhood was revealed to be anything but peaceful. Beneath the manicured lawns and expensive cars lay a dark network of corruption that had operated with impunity for years. Marcus found himself both a hero and a target. The digital trail he'd uncovered had blown open one of the most significant local criminal investigations in recent history. His network security skills had done more than protect systems. They'd protected people. 3 months later, Jake Matthews sat in a federal detention center awaiting trial. The Wi-Fi dispute that had started everything was now a footnote in a much larger story of corruption exposed. As for Marcus, he returned to his work, a bit more cautious, but no less committed to uncovering the truth hidden in the digital shadows. The neighborhood had changed. The perfect suburban facade was gone, replaced by something more honest. And it all started with a simple Wi-Fi complaint that was never really about internet access.